What if every challenge you face isn't a wall, but a signal, pointing to a smarter move, a better angle, a wiser mindset? In a world that rewards noise and speed, true power lies in quiet strategy. The Stoics didn't react. They observed, prepared, and acted with precision. This video breaks down the timeless art of thinking ahead, adapting without fear, and turning setbacks into stepping stones. If you're ready to stop rushing blindly into problems and start approaching life like a strategist, this is your moment. Because once you master the art of strategic thinking, no challenge can catch you off guard again. Chapter 1. Think strategically, not reactively. Most people live their lives like distracted chess players, always one move behind, reacting to whatever appears in front of them. A crisis shows up, and they scramble. An opportunity arises, and they jump without thinking. But reaction is not strategy, it's survival. And those who only survive never rise. The Stoic mind thinks differently. It doesn't wait for problems to arrive. It anticipates. It doesn't chase outcomes. It designs them. Strategic thinking is not a trick. It's a discipline of perspective. To think strategically means zooming out, seeing the larger field, asking not just what's next, but what does this moment mean within the greater picture? While others obsess over what's urgent, the strategist prioritizes what is essential. They pause, they question, they see patterns where others see randomness, and they move not quickly but precisely. Strategic thinkers don't just plan, they prepare. They don't hope things go well, they shape conditions so that even setbacks serve them. Their decisions are not driven by emotion, but by clarity. They play the long game, not because it's easy, but because it's the only game that lasts. In a world of endless noise, this mindset is rare, but it can be trained. It starts the moment you choose awareness over impulse, the moment you stop reacting and start thinking forward. That's when you begin not just to move, but to move with meaning. And in the next chapter, we'll uncover the core principles that make this discipline unshakable. Chapter 2. The core of strategic discipline. Strategic thinking is not a burst of cleverness, it's a way of living. It's what separates those who chase every noise from those who build something that lasts. At the center of it is discipline, not the discipline of willpower, but of perspective. The discipline to pause before acting, to ask not what feels urgent, but what serves the mission. The first core is clarity of vision. Without it, effort becomes motion without progress. The Stoic strategist knows that every decision is a vote for a future, so they define what that future looks like. Not in vague terms like success or growth, but in specifics. What matters? What's worth sacrificing for? Second is flexibility of method. Life changes, plans fail, but the mission remains. True discipline isn't rigid, it's adaptive. The strategist holds the goal tightly but the path loosely. Like water, they move around obstacles without losing momentum. Third is awareness of cost. Every choice comes with a trade-off. Time, attention, energy, once spent, they don't return. So the disciplined mind measures not just the gain, but the price. What's the opportunity cost? What am I giving up to say yes? And finally, there is consistency. The strategist does not need constant motivation. Their fuel is purpose. They return to it daily, especially when the path gets hard. This is the root system of all strategic thought. In the next chapter, we'll sharpen the blade even further, learning how to train the mind to see through illusion and think with clarity. Chapter 3. Sharpen the mind. cut through illusion. At the root of every strong strategy lies a sharp mind, not just a mind filled with knowledge, but one trained in clarity, discipline, and independence. This is the essence of critical thinking, the ability to question, analyze, and see through illusion. Without it, strategy turns into guesswork, and decisions become vulnerable to bias, impulse, and confusion. But with it, you gain an edge few possess, the ability to think for yourself in a world that constantly tries to think for you. The Stoics warned us about unexamined beliefs. They knew that most people follow traditions, emotions, or borrowed opinions without stopping to ask, does this hold up? Strategic thinkers challenge assumptions. They don't just accept what's popular. They ask, is this true or simply familiar? One of their greatest defenses is knowing how to spot traps. Confirmation bias, for instance, the tendency to seek what supports your view and ignore what doesn't, is a subtle enemy. Most people look for validation, but the strategic mind welcomes contradiction. It plays devil's advocate against itself, not to undermine confidence, but to strengthen it. Better to find your weak points before the world does. They also know not to confuse patterns with truth. Just because two things happen together doesn't mean one caused the other. Did the new marketing plan boost sales, or was it the season, the economy, the competitors' collapse? Strategic thinkers dig deeper, asking, what else could explain this? They avoid overgeneralizing. One bad partnership doesn't mean all partnerships are risky. One failed strategy doesn't mean the idea was flawed. They know context matters, and above all, they respect humility. The wise are not afraid to change their minds. To the ego, admitting error feels like weakness. But to the strategist, it is evolution. Critical thinking is not about doubting everything. It's about seeing clearly, thinking deeply, and acting wisely. In the next chapter, we'll put this mindset into motion, breaking down real-world decisions and using strategy not just to think better, but to live better. Chapter 4. The Art of Choosing Wisely. Every meaningful outcome in life flows from one thing: choice. The job you take, the relationship you nurture, the investment you make, even the thoughts you entertain, they all begin with a decision. Yet most people approach decision-making like flipping a coin. They rely on impulse, habit, or emotion, hoping things will work out. But the strategic mind knows better. It sees decision-making not as a gamble, but as a craft, one shaped by clarity, structure, and discipline. It begins with knowing exactly what you want. Many make poor choices because they chase vague desires like happiness or success without ever defining what those mean. The Stoic strategist asks instead, what specific result am I after? What would success actually look like? What problem am I solving, and what matters most to me in the long run? This clarity becomes the compass for every decision ahead. Next comes information. Too little and you're blind. Too much and you drown. Strategic thinkers know how to cut through the noise. They seek just enough reliable, diverse input to inform their judgment, especially data that challenges their assumptions. They are not looking to be right. They are looking to choose well. Then they ask better questions. A surface-level problem might lead you to ask how to sell more, but a wise reframing might ask why people stopped buying in the first place. Change the question, and you often change the outcome. They weigh risk, not to avoid it, but to measure it. They know every move carries uncertainty, but by thinking in probabilities, assessing downside, and mapping second-order consequences, they act with calm and foresight. And when emotion threatens to blur the mind, they pause. they reflect. Sometimes even walking through the worst-case scenario to prepare in advance. In the end, what separates the average decision from a great one is not speed or certainty, it's process. The discipline to ask, analyze, reflect, and choose. And in the next chapter, we'll explore how great decisions come alive through focused, strategic execution. Chapter 5. Make it happen. A brilliant idea is worthless without execution. The world is full of people with dreams, plans, and potential, but few turn them into something real. Why? Because execution is hard. It demands more than inspiration. It asks for discipline, focus, and relentless follow-through. The Stoics believed that philosophy was not just for discussion, but for action, and so it is with strategy. Knowing what to do is never enough. Doing it consistently and wisely is what separates the architect from the daydreamer. Strategic execution begins with clarity. Vague intentions like grow my business or become healthier don't move the needle. The strategic mind turns goals into measurable actions. If the goal is to boost revenue, it becomes a set of initiatives: optimize pricing, expand outreach, improve retention, each one with deadlines, accountability, and concrete metrics. Execution lives in the specifics. Then comes prioritization. Many fail because they try to do everything. But doing more isn't the answer. Doing what matters is. Tools like the Eisenhower matrix help focus effort where it counts, especially on important but non-urgent tasks that quietly shape the future. Strategic thinkers also break time into 90-day cycles. Why 90? It's long enough to make real progress, but short enough to stay sharp and flexible. Within each window, they pick a few key goals and give them full attention. That's how momentum is built. They don't rely on motivation. They use systems, accountability check-ins, tracking tools, feedback loops. They design their environment to keep them honest, even when willpower fades. And most of all, they act. They don't wait for perfect conditions. They launch fast, learn quickly, and adjust. Execution favors movement. Not recklessness, but boldness. Obstacles will come. Setbacks are certain. But the Stoic executor adapts. They don't cling to a broken method. They hold the goal steady while adjusting the path. Because in the end, what you do matters more than what you intend. And in the next chapter, we'll explore the one trait that makes execution resilient in a changing world: strategic adaptability. Chapter 6. Adapt with purpose. The world doesn't ask for your permission to change. Markets shift, technology evolves, competitors rise. What once felt secure suddenly feels unstable. In times like these, the ability to adapt strategically is no longer optional. It is a matter of survival. The Stoics understood this long before modern business thinkers. They taught that we must prepare our minds for uncertainty, for no storm can destroy a man who adjusts his sails. Adaptability begins with awareness. Most people fail not from lack of intelligence, but from failing to see change coming. Strategic minds stay alert. They observe signals. They track trends. They question assumptions before assumptions collapse. Like a general watching the horizon, they prepare while others wait. They use scenario planning, not to predict the future, but to prepare for multiple futures. They ask, what if this fails? What if this model breaks? What if we are forced to pivot? With multiple paths mapped, they are never cornered. They move when others freeze. But adaptability isn't just mental, it's also emotional. Change is uncomfortable. It demands letting go of what once worked. Many resist, not because they cannot adapt, but because they fear leaving the familiar. Strategic thinkers train for this. They reframe disruption as an opening. Instead of loss, they see creation. They also stay humble. They let go of the sunk cost fallacy. If the current path no longer serves the goal, they shift. They stay loyal to the mission, not the method. And they move fast. They test small. They iterate quickly. They know that perfect plans fail if they can't adapt in real time. They are agile in mindset, not just in tools. Above all, they remain opportunistic. While others see crisis, they ask, where is the new advantage? Where can we reposition? They don't wait for the tide to calm. They adjust and sail forward. And in the next chapter, we'll explore the natural complement to adaptability, strategic influence, the power to lead, persuade, and shape the direction of others with wisdom and purpose. Chapter 7. Influence with integrity. A strategy without influence is like a map without hands to carry it forward. No matter how powerful your vision, if you cannot inspire others to believe in it, act on it and carry it with you, it stays locked in theory. Influence is not manipulation. It is not about forcing decisions. It is about leading with wisdom, clarity, and trust, so others choose to follow you freely. True influence begins with credibility. People do not follow titles. They follow consistency, character, and competence. A strategic mind knows that every word, every action, every promise kept or broken is a brick in the foundation of trust. Lose that, and no argument, no charm, no authority will save you. Equally vital is emotional intelligence. You cannot move others unless you first understand them. Great influencers listen more than they speak. They read tone, observe silence, feel hesitation. They know that people are not swayed by logic alone, they are moved by resonance. So they speak in ways that meet the heart, not just the mind. They also master the frame. Presenting an idea is never just about facts. It is about how those facts are seen. Is a price increase a burden or an investment in quality? Is a career shift a risk or a path to greater purpose? Framing is the art of guiding perception, but timing matters. Influence is often about patience, knowing when to speak and when to wait, when to push and when to let silence do the work. They build alliances, show proof through results, adapt their message to each mind they meet. And when resistance comes, they don't fight, they reframe. They understand that persistence paired with empathy is more powerful than pressure. And, above all, they lead with vision. Not small promises, but clear futures. They show others where the path leads and make them want to walk it too. If you're learning something here, comment, lead wisely, and subscribe now to keep sharpening your mind for the chapters ahead. Because in the next chapter, we'll go deeper into strategic resilience and how the Stoic mind endures hardship without breaking, always moving forward. Chapter 8. Resilience over reaction. In every meaningful pursuit, adversity is guaranteed. Markets collapse, plans unravel, timing misfires, and moments of doubt creep in. But what separates those who endure from those who abandon the journey is resilience, the ability to meet difficulty with clarity, adapt without panic, and keep moving with purpose. The Stoics taught that we cannot control external events, only how we respond to them, and that response defines everything. Strategic resilience begins with mental toughness, not the absence of emotion, but the ability to remain focused under pressure. While many internalize failure as personal defeat, the resilient mind views it as data. What needs to change? What is this setback teaching me? Instead of retreating, they recalibrate. They also regulate emotion. In high-stress situations, frustration and fear are natural, but they don't rule the day. A pause, a breath, a moment of composure, The resilient thinker chooses response over reaction. They maintain a level mind when circumstances become chaotic. Preparation is another foundation. Those who build contingency plans before crisis hits recover faster. They anticipate what might go wrong and sketch alternatives before they're needed. When one door shuts, they've already checked for windows. Yet resilience is not just about persistence, it's about adaptive persistence, staying committed to the goal while remaining flexible in the path. If one approach fails, they shift. If resources tighten, they become resourceful. They ask, "What do I still have? How can I use it?" And when the journey feels long, they find small wins, small daily progress that creates momentum. They do not depend on motivation, they depend on motion. They believe in their capacity, not as blind faith, but grounded in past effort, reflection, and growth. They accept uncertainty, not as a threat, but as part of the terrain. Because resilience is not resistance, it is movement through. And in the next chapter, we'll explore how all this inner strength transforms into outer impact through execution that brings vision into the real world. Chapter 9. Execute with focus. A strategy means nothing if it never leaves the page. No matter how visionary the idea, how brilliant the plan, without execution, it remains only potential, unrealized, unmeasured, forgotten. The world is full of people with ambition, but only a few carry their vision all the way through. Strategic execution is what turns clarity into movement and movement into achievement. It is not glamorous, but it is essential. Execution begins with precise objectives. Vague intentions like grow the business or get healthier won't hold up under pressure. The strategic mind breaks goals into measurable, trackable steps. Not just increase revenue, but grow quarterly revenue by 15% through 3 targeted campaigns and retention improvements. Specificity sharpens focus and anchors action, but execution also requires ruthless prioritization. The Stoic thinker asks, what matters most today? What effort drives the greatest return? Not everything is urgent. Not everything deserves attention. The disciplined executor does less but achieves more because their energy isn't scattered, it's directed. Momentum matters. It's easy to start. It's hard to keep going, especially when results lag. That's why strategic execution is built on systems, not moods. Daily check-ins, weekly reviews, feedback loops. These tools keep movement alive even when motivation fades. Execution is not immune to setbacks. But the Stoic doesn't fold at the first sign of resistance. They adapt. They iterate. They change the method, not the mission. Agility is not weakness. It is survival. And progress multiplies when leverage is applied. Whether through delegation, automation, or partnerships, the strategic mind always asks, how can I achieve more with less? Above all, execution demands resilience. Ideas stretch over months or years. The path is not a sprint, but a climb. Fatigue comes. Doubt follows. But those who endure, the ones who keep showing up, adjusting, refining, they are the ones who build legacies. And in the next chapter, we'll explore how to negotiate with clarity and strength, turning influence into favorable outcomes. Because once your strategy is in motion, you must protect it at the table. Chapter 10. Negotiate from strength. Negotiation is not a battlefield. It's not about aggression, nor is it reserved for executives or diplomats. In truth, you negotiate every day, sometimes for money, sometimes for opportunity, often for respect. And yet, many approach it with fear or avoidance, thinking that asking is taking. But the Stoic mind knows this. Negotiation, when done right, is not about overpowering. It's about aligning. It's about creating value while defending your own. At the heart of negotiation is leverage. Not just what you want, but how your value is framed. A strategic mind doesn't walk into a room expecting their needs to speak for themselves. They prepare. They study the other side's interests, pressures, alternatives. They identify their BATNA, their best alternative if the deal doesn't land, and they step into the room with informed confidence. But even more powerful than preparation is emotional control. The best terms are lost not in logic, but in ego. One word spoken in frustration, one move made from fear, can undo hours of work. Strategic negotiators remain composed. They use silence as a tool. They don't rush to fill every pause because they understand that silence creates space. Space where the other party often reveals more than they intend. They also master the art of framing. Instead of saying, "I need," they say, based on performance, "This is aligned with industry standards." They anchor high, not to pressure, but to set the tone. They control the pace, not to stall, but to think clearly. Most importantly, they think beyond the table. Every negotiation sets the tone for the next. So they protect relationships. They preserve goodwill. And when necessary, they walk away, not in defeat, but in strength. Because negotiation is not just about getting more. It's about shaping the conversation, setting the frame, and ensuring that every agreement brings you closer to the future you've chosen. And in the next chapter, we'll explore how to sharpen that future with strategic decision-making, where clarity, courage, and consequence meet. Chapter 11. Decide with clarity. Every triumph begins with a choice. Every failure, too. Behind every breakthrough or breakdown is a decision made or avoided. And yet, decision-making remains one of the most misunderstood aspects of success. Some hesitate, endlessly analyzing. Others act on impulse, led by emotion rather than clarity. But the Stoic strategist learns a different way, one where every decision becomes a deliberate move toward long-term purpose. The first truth is this: indecision is a decision, and often it's the costliest one. Waiting for perfect certainty means surrendering control to chance. Strategic minds understand that all choices carry risk. The goal is not to remove risk, but to manage it wisely. Progress belongs to those willing to move forward under imperfect conditions. That's why clarity of purpose is non-negotiable. Without a clear destination, choices become distractions. Before acting, a strategic thinker asks, does this bring me closer to my vision or pull me further away? They align every decision with long-term intent, cutting through noise and temptation. They also consider what most overlook: opportunity cost. Choosing one path always means leaving another behind. So they weigh not just what they gain, but what they sacrifice. Is this the best use of time, energy, and attention? Emotional discipline is essential. Excitement and fear distort judgment. Strategic decision-makers step back. They detach. They rely on logic, data, and reason, not moods. They seek out opposing views. They challenge their own thinking. Because the strongest decisions come not from certainty but from rigorous honesty. They use mental models to cut through complexity, first principles, second-order thinking, inversion, the 80-20 rule. And they resist analysis paralysis by setting firm deadlines, knowing that waiting too long is often worse than deciding imperfectly. Lastly, they study their past. They review, refine, and learn. With each decision, their judgment sharpens, confidence deepens. They don't aim for perfect choices, but better ones over time, and in doing so, they shape not just outcomes, but identity. In the next chapter, we'll move from choices to leadership, how to guide others with the same clarity, resilience, and strategic purpose you've now cultivated within. Chapter 12. Lead with vision and backbone. Leadership is not about titles, authority, or organizational rank. True leadership is the capacity to influence hearts and minds, to inspire action rooted in clarity and shared purpose. While many see leadership as a gift bestowed upon the few, the Stoic understands it as a discipline, one forged through character, vision, and consistent example. At the center of all great leadership is vision. Not the vague ambition to do better, but a sharp, compelling direction that gives meaning to every task and decision. Without it, people drift. Teams react instead of act. A strategic leader anchors every move to that vision, asking, where are we going? Why does it matter? And how will this step shape what comes next? But vision without communication dies in silence. Leadership demands the ability to speak with clarity and conviction, painting a future so vivid that others feel called to step into it. Strategic leaders listen more than they speak. They engage, adapt, and ensure their message resonates across every layer of the team, from the boardroom to the front line. Leadership also rests on trust. And trust is earned not through speeches, but through action. A true leader embodies the very discipline they expect from others. When storms rise, they do not retreat. They respond with calm, clarity, and courage, showing that integrity is not just a principle, but a practice. Strategic leaders influence without force. They don't impose decisions. They align interests. They understand what drives people, and they shape culture through shared meaning. They handle conflict not with avoidance, but with respect and resolve, turning disagreement into refinement. And they empower. They lift others up, delegate authority, and create a system where the mission can thrive even in their absence. They do not aim to be liked, they aim to be respected. Because real leadership is not about pleasing everyone. It's about doing what's right, especially when it's not easy. And in moments of chaos or criticism, they stay rooted, resilient, not because things are easy, but because the mission is worth enduring for. In the next chapter, we'll explore how that mission survives through time by mastering adaptability in a world that never stops shifting. Chapter 13. Move before the world does. In a world that never stands still, survival is not about strength, it's about adaptability. The Stoic doesn't resist change, he works with it. He sees the shifting terrain not as a threat, but as a signal. The truly strategic mind does not simply react to change, it anticipates, adjusts, and uses it to grow stronger. Like a tree that bends with the wind, it is flexibility, not rigidity, that endures the storm. Strategic adaptability is not chaos. It is purpose guided by agility. It's knowing when to let go of a method that no longer serves the mission and having the courage to evolve without losing direction. Most people resist change because it disrupts their comfort. But the Stoic embraces it because comfort breeds stagnation. They train themselves to unlearn, relearn, and question what others assume. Speed matters. Adaptable minds move quickly, not recklessly but decisively. They test, refine, and move again. They know that hesitation is often more dangerous than failure, and beyond all, they remain calm in uncertainty, grounded in principle, yet open in strategy. Adaptability is not an occasional response. It is a way of being, and those who live this way don't wait for the future. They shape it. The next step is knowing how to guide others through that same transformation. Chapter 14. Guide perception, shape outcomes. Influence isn't about controlling others. It's about aligning with what moves them. It's the quiet force that shapes decisions before a word is spoken, the reason some voices are remembered while others are forgotten. True influence begins with trust, earned, not declared. The Stoic doesn't impose, he persuades by living what he teaches. His words hold weight not because of volume, but because of consistency, clarity, and depth. Strategic influence requires knowing how people think, what they fear, and what they value. Facts alone don't change minds. Framing, timing, and trust do. The wise influencer asks better questions instead of forcing better answers. They guide others to see truth for themselves, making the insight feel like their own. They know that when someone feels respected and understood, they open their mind without a fight. Adaptability is also essential. No two minds are moved the same way. Some are swayed by logic, others by emotion. The skilled communicator listens first, tailoring each message to resonate deeply, not broadly. Influence that lasts doesn't shout, it connects. And the one who can shape perception through integrity and understanding doesn't just win arguments. He quietly changes the course of what happens next. Chapter 15. Build what outlives you. Strategic thinking is not merely about outsmarting challenges or crafting clever solutions in the present. Its true essence lies in building something that outlives the thinker. The most impactful minds don't chase applause or temporary gain. They ask deeper questions. What systems am I creating that will endure? Whose future am I shaping with my decisions today? Legacy is not about being remembered. It's about building what continues to serve long after we're gone. Great thinkers don't hoard knowledge, they share it, mentor others, and pass down frameworks that allow people to thrive beyond their influence. They build structures that are resilient, not reliant. Cultures that carry purpose even in their absence. True legacy is not rooted in dominance. It is forged through innovation, ethical leadership, and the courage to challenge old paradigms. It's refusing to settle for what is and daring to ask what could be. It's not about playing the game well, it's about changing the rules entirely for the better. At its core, legacy means facing the long road with patience and belief. The willingness to act now for results you may never see, and to build with others, not for praise, but for progress. In the end, strategic thinking is not defined by what you achieve alone, but by what continues because you once thought deeply, acted boldly, and refused to settle. Now the question remains, not if you can think strategically, but what legacy you will choose to build with it. What you build with your thoughts, your choices, and your discipline will outlive every obstacle you face. This is the quiet power of strategy, not just to succeed, but to leave behind something wiser, stronger, and lasting. The only real question is this: what kind of legacy are you shaping starting now? If this spoke to something in you, take a moment and comment. Think ahead. And if you're ready to keep sharpening your mind with purpose, subscribe for what comes next. Your future deserves nothing less than a strategist at the helm. The next chapter is already waiting.